Hi, Leon Grizzard in Austin, Texas. I'd like to talk for a minute about minor chords in Western swing music, and it really only ought to take a minute because you don't run into many minor chords in Western swing and even fewer minor key songs in Western swing. It's mostly major key tunes and mostly major and dominant seventh type chords. Even though it only ought to take a minute, it takes a few minutes to say it all because there are some considerations when playing minor chords that are a little different from what you encounter with major chords. So everyone knows that there are three minor chords in the major keys, falling on the second and the third and sixth scale degrees. That would be in the key of C. D minor, E minor is the 3 chord, and A minor is the 6 chord. So let's start with what you do actually see. I think that far and away the most common thing that you see, most common use of the minor chord in Western swing is in a major key tune, and the bridge part of the verse or a B part of the tune will go to the 6th chord, A minor in the key of C, and it'll play that 6th chord. It will go to the 5/7 of that 6th chord. That'll be E7th in the key of to the A minor chord. And it will go something like this, from the second verse of Rosetta, which is a very typical Western swing type tune, or the progression you see a lot. It's a cycle of dominant 7th chords, and it goes, "You told me that you love me, don't leave me for somebody new." Here we go to the bridge, A minor, you, 8 E7th, make my life a dream. 2/7, and I pray that it will come true, Rosetta. And so that's a very typical one, going to the A minor 7th chord, the 5/7 of the A minor chord, and then back to the E7th, and then back to the A minor chord. Sometimes you'll see the E7th precede the A minor chord, and that would be like on Chinatown. Chinatown, my Chinatown, when the lights are low. Here we go. Hearts that know no other land are drifting to and fro. Oh, oh, oh. Like that. Now what I did there on that Chinatown thing is I played an A minor, and then I walked up with this little line here. A, B, C, went back down to B. That is playing an A minor chord. Here on the B note, I am playing B, just those 3 bottom notes there of what could either be the E7th chord, or you could be diminished chord. I sort of avoid the issue as to which of those I'm playing by just playing the bottom notes that are common to both those chords. And there for the C note, I'm playing a chord that some of you may not be familiar with. That is a minor chord with the 3rd of the chord, C, on the E string, and there it is. And how I'm playing it is on the 8th fret of the low E string, I've got the C note, skip the A string, the A note is the 7th fret of the D string, and the E note, the 5th of the chord, is on the 9th fret of the G string. That is just like that A major chord with the 3rd of the bottom, lower the 3rd 1/2 step, 1 fret, and there's your A minor chord. And so, if you wish to, you could take that even further up the scale, and the next note up in the scale would be D. You could play an E7th chord with the D on the bottom, either there or up here, and then wind up with the A minor chord with the 5th of the chord, E on the bottom. There's some other things you could play on that B note. You could play a B minor 7th flat 5th. When you get to the D note, you could try playing a D minor or D minor 7th chord, just some sort of passing chord that has got either the B or the D in the root. If you have got the minor chord with the root on the 5th string, like if you're playing a D minor chord instead, what I play there is I use that diminished thing, and you get to it by the next line, of course, we go D, E, F, the third of the D minor chord, and I play, to get that diminished part of the chord, I play an A7th chord, and you can either, if you don't play the A note that's there on the high E string, then what you're left with in the middle is a diminished chord. It's not a complete diminished chord like we were playing in the earlier episodes of this series. It's got 4 notes sounding, but 2 of them are E's, so it's not complete, but it's still a diminished chord. And so it is D, E diminished, or A7. And in order to get the D with the F on the top, you take that regular D minor chord like you've got there, refinger it to leave your pinky free, and you get the F note like that. So there's an A7th chord. I want to point out that if you're playing over the 3 chord, which would be E minor in the key of C, you have a little different consideration. The next step up, or the next note up from that E note, is not a whole step like it was with the D minor chord and the A minor chord. It's only a half step from E up to F in the key of C. So you've got the same E minor chord there, the E minor chord with the 3rd G on the bottom in that figure there. But what you do on the F chord is you can do one of a few things there. You can get a diminished sound by playing what would be a B flat 7th chord. Just be careful to not play that B flat note on the high E string. If you've got the diminished chord there, you may try some variation of an F chord there, either an F7th chord or an F major 7th chord, or an F7th chord, something to give you a little bit of dissonance in there and act as a passing note. What I think I would do, and I think I can promise you that you're never going to have to actually encounter this conundrum, because you'll never, probably hardly ever, if ever, see an E minor chord in the key of C in a Western swing tune, and if you do, you're just going to pass through it too quickly for you to really do anything. But what I would favor doing would be playing that B flat 7th chord without the B flat on it, is what I think that I would tend to do. The other thing you can do, of course, is break from the scale at that point, and rather than play some sort of F chord, or a chord with F on the bottom, play a chord with F sharp on the bottom, just a step up, just exactly as you did with the D minor chord and the A minor chord. Although I'd say if you're going to pull a stunt like that and you're in a band situation, you ought to talk to your bandmates about it so that you're not playing F sharp note and everybody else is playing F. And so that's the basic way of approaching minor chords when you encounter them in the bridge section or passing through them in a major scale tune in Western swing.